Okay, so here we go. Just be honest, right? So you get a whole bunch of weights over a 10-week period, and it's in pounds. So pounds, use LB, or you can write out pounds. It's okay, not a big deal. So state the mean to 1 decimal place. I don't know why I did that. It's usually 2, but if you went with 1, all good. X bar is the regular mean that we all know. So if you add everything up, I'd like to see that. That's like the bare minimum, right? So you add up all those pounds, you divide it by 10, and that's what the average weight would be over a 10, over I guess a 10-week period, right, on average. Okay, state the mode. We're going to park that for a bit. I'm going to come back to that because when you're finding the median, you need to arrange it, right? You need to arrange. You can't just grab. Some of you are doing on the quiz. You were doing the, the 5th and the 6th, and you just grab the 5th and the 6th as is. So I will give you a mark for arranging it. Most likely on a test, I will ask you to do that in the first place. So if you have it arranged, I will give you 1 mark here. So there's 3 130s, and there's 1. So this question is actually going to be worth 2 marks because of the extra work. And now that I've arranged it, I will go up here to my mode and write down 130 pounds for the mode. So that's just 1 mark as always. And remember, if there's no mode, then you write down no mode. Don't put 0, okay? And so because it's 10, right, I need to take the 5th, right? 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2. I'm just going to go arrow. I need to take the 5th and the 6th and divide that by 2. Some of you are not dividing by 2, so remember to do that, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So basically to find a median, I will just add up those 2 and divide it, and you get 128.5 if you do that correctly. So you get 1 mark for arranging it and 1 mark for coming up with 128.5 pounds. So half of the points are below it, half are above it. Okay, that's the median. Next, you have a chart. Okay, if you have a table, guys, remember this. I will make it as simple as possible here. It's weighted mean, so you multiply. This might be a good study sheet entry for weighted mean. You multiply, you add, and then you divide. Like this is basically, it works every time. And this doesn't make sense unless you've gone through the lesson, of course. What do I mean by multiply? You take the 2 different categories, right? Population and in this case percentage, and you multiply them like this times. And you take the next row times, and this would continue for as many rows as there are. Okay, so it's weighted mean. We call that weighted mean, but it's really just finding the average. But when you have 2 different categories, you need to multiply across. When I multiply the first here, I get a really big number, watch. But don't be scared. Watch, 2 times 84.6. I don't divide by 100 or anything, I just leave it like that. So I will put down 101. And if you want to write this down, just make sure you use a pen, right? So if I multiply that first one, I get this. Then I need to add it by whatever I get next. 3,108,000 times 65.3. And that's 202,952, 400,000. So you multiply, right? These 2 numbers were found by multiplying the categories. And then you add, which in this case is just adding 2 numbers. And the last step is to divide by something. And that's the tricky part. This is where you do this. Watch me on the side. What did you do? You multiplied population times percentage of English, right? That speak English as a first language. That's what you've been doing. Now, only one of those will stay. Read the question here. It says, read carefully, calculate the percentage of people. They want, right? Calculate the percentage. That gives it away. So that means that we want to keep the percentage. So that tells you that I will have to divide by the population involved so that these two cancel out. And some of you actually showed that on the quiz, which is great. Some of you just knew what to do. So now that tells you that I need to go to the population column, add those up. So I'm going to go 1,200,000 plus 3,108,000. So you need to add up. It's either this or this column, right? And in this, we will use the population because we determined that on the side. Okay, when I add up the top, I get this. If I add up the top numbers, if I add up the bottom, I get 4,308,000. And so when you divide those two, you get this 7.68. We round to 7 to an 8, right? 70.68% of people speak English as their first language based on the data that we were given. So let me tell you this. This is always going to be a weighted mean is always going to be worth 3 marks. 1 mark, if you show me that you're multiplying the categories, you get 1 mark. If you're showing me that you're adding those numbers that you just multiplied, you get 2 marks. And then the last one is to get this right, to actually have the right value in the denominator. And of course, if you then make a calculation error and all that, you will get more deductions. But other than that, it's those 3 things that will get you to your finish line. Okay. So this question is not worth 2 marks. It's actually worth 3. Okay. It's worth 3 marks. And so this whole page is worth 7. So add up your marks, compute, right? Get that total out of 7. Remember, I changed 1C to be out of 2 marks, right? And now the back side. This is where what we learned yesterday comes into play. In a school, 236 students wrote a test. Okay, Jesse scored 60 out of 93 on the test, and 127 students scored lower than him. This right here should tell you that you should be like, okay, we're in statistics. They're giving me how many scored less than Jesse. Probably going percentile rank. And it says, state Jesse's percentile rank. So before we do that, percentile rank, remember, is B divided by N times 100. That's how you get it. So for Jesse, we know that 127 students, right? The B represents number of items or number of students in this case that scored below the given score. And we have a total of 236. So we multiply that by 100. You get 53.8 and then something. But you cannot leave it like that. Percentile rank, you need to round it. You choose. You want to go 53 or you want to go 54? It doesn't matter. But because it's ranking, we go round values. Or you can go PR54 if you'd like. Same thing. And remember, it tells you that 54% of students scored less than Jesse. So Jesse's about middle of the pack, right? You'd have to agree 50, being in the 50th, you're middle of the pack, half below, half above, right? You're a little bit better than half, but there you go. What about Jesse's mark as a percentage on the test? All you need to do is you go 60 over 93 times 100. This is the test score, right? If you score 15 out of 20, you go 15 divided by 20 times 100. And that gives you 64.52%, or I will allow you to go 65%. That's fine. You're safe to keep it as 2 decimals. So pass the test. 65% puts you about middle of the pack in this scenario. Next. Oh, everything stays. This is worth 1 mark, worth 1 mark, because everything was really given. You just had to plug in and go. Okay. Question 4. You have a bunch of house prices that were listed, right, or sold as. State the mean. All you need to do there is obviously find the average. So we add everything up, we get 3,264,000 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we are in dollars, right? So that'd be $544,000 average selling price. But last time, right? Like this is very rare, the $1.8 million house. It's extremely high. So state the trimmed mean by removing the highest and lowest values. I already told you what to do. So you don't need to do anything other than going trimmed mean. And let's go up here. Trimmed mean means get rid of that highest value and the lowest in this case. They tell you what to do. So you're left with 4 numbers. And the top is going to be a bit trickier. Okay, so I'm going to take my previous total and I'm going to subtract 1,877,000 from it and the 87,000. It's a little bit messy, but you get, regardless of how you did it, you should get 1,300,000 divided by 4, which gets you 325,000 as the average selling price if you remove the upper and the lower values. Which one would you consider the outlier though in that set? Would you say they're both outliers? To a certain degree they are, right? That's why I just told you, just remove the highest and the lowest, right? Because it's not very common to find a house worth 87,000. I don't even know if that is possible these days, in Winnipeg at least. And this is rare too. Over one, right? Almost $2 million house. It's not, when they advertise the average house prices, right, they should be removing the highest and the lowest to kind of know what average is, what a good average is, right? Justify which mean, right? Is it the trimmed mean or is it the arithmetic mean? Would be a better indicator of the average selling price. So you would have to say trimmed mean is better as it omits the outliers. It gives a better better indication of common selling prices. Okay, you could say that the selling price is within a normal range, removing the higher and the lower value. So I also want to change the marks here. Go to B, 2B here. I'm going to make that worth 2 marks. You get 1 mark for having the 1,300,000 and another mark for having the 4 down here, because if you forgot to do that, you would only get 1 out of 2. Okay. That's assuming you did this right, of course. So there we have it. And the last one Let me, this one, I don't know how many of you struggled with this one, but you want to know percentage of families making between 70 and 90,000. So between 70 and 90,000, you want to know what percentage of families fall in between. Well, this is where you use the percentile. This tells you that, right, 50% of families, like if you're in the 70,000, right, that means that half of the families make less than that income. If you're in the $90,000 range, you place in the 85th percentile, which means, let's go arrow all the way back, right? That 85% of families make less than you. So you've got 50% less and 85% less. So if you want to know in between, you just got to take the 85% and subtract the 50, right? You want to take this chunk off. So you're left with what's in between. So you go like this. So the answer is 35%. Okay? 35% of families would be in between that income range. And that's because of the percentile rank that they were giving us. Okay? And so this page is also 7 because of the changes we've made, right, to 4B. So add it up out of 14 and then get your